Hello, Bali YouTube channel.
In the highly controlled K-pop industry, when a group's members decide to sign with rival agencies, it is, well, it's almost universally a death sentence for the band.
Oh, absolutely. It's an unwritten rule at this point.
Right. The company locks up the trademark, the schedules conflict, and the group just quietly fades away.
Yeah, they just disappear.
But today we're looking at a group that didn't just survive scattering across 3 rival companies. They somehow used it to, engineer the biggest world tour of their entire careers.
Which is wild. I mean, it completely defies the gravity of how this industry is supposed to work.
It really does. And if you follow the space, or, if you are part of their incredibly dedicated fan base known as MAMAMOOs, you know exactly what the emotional focus of today's deep dive is.
Oh, for sure.
Because for 4 agonizing years, fans have been holding their breath, waiting, and honestly crying out for a signal that this group wasn't finished.
And they can finally exhale.
Yes. Because the October 2025 bombshell announcement is real, and the excitement is just off the charts right now. MAMAMOO is officially coming back.
I know, people are losing their minds over this. And we aren't just talking about a quick digital single to wave hello to the fans.
Well, definitely not.
We are talking about a June 2026 comeback, a full group album, and a massive 26-city world tour.
It's huge. But our mission today isn't just to celebrate the fact that they are reuniting, as exciting as that is.
Right.
We are taking a stack of comprehensive sources to understand why this specific reunion happening 12 years after their debut could completely rewrite the K-pop industry's rule book.
Yeah, we really need to look at the mechanics behind this. Like, how did they actually pull this off?
Exactly.
Well, to understand the magnitude of this 2026 comeback, we have to understand the foundation they built. We actually need to rewind to what the K-pop landscape was like back in 2014 when they debuted.
Right. Let's look at that 2014 landscape, because the sources paint a picture of a musical environment that was, well, incredibly rigid.
Yeah, very rigid.
The industry heavily rewarded manufactured perfection.
Highly manufactured. At that time, companies were leaning heavily into pre-recorded vocals. You had heavy auto-tune that smoothed out every human imperfection.
Everything was flawless.
Too flawless. The visual performance and complex choreography were prioritized above all else. And musically, groups were slotted into very predictable formulas.
Right. It was either the cute concept or the edgy concept.
Exactly. You're either given a cute, innocent concept to appeal to younger demographics or an edgy girl crush concept. There wasn't much middle ground.
So live vocals were basically treated as an optional bonus, not a requirement. And then enter MAMAMOO.
Yep.
They debuted under a small mid-tier company called RBW Entertainment. They didn't have the massive marketing budget of the big agencies.
At all.
But with their debut single, Mr. Ambiguous, they brought real instruments, heavy jazz influences, and just unapologetic raw live vocals.
Which was so disruptive.
Right.
Because in K-pop, a group's vocal dynamic is usually engineered to fit a very specific pop sound.
Yeah.
You know, you have one main vocal and everyone else just supports.
Right, the designated singer.
Yeah, but MAMAMOO brought 4 entirely distinct voices that demanded attention.
Oh, absolutely.
You had Solar's powerhouse belting, Ween's honeyed, jazz-influenced tone, Moonbyul's smooth, melodic rap flow, and Hwasa's raspy, sultry soul.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine the 2014 K-pop scene as this exclusive, massive underground club that only plays heavily synthesized, pre-programmed EDM.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Everything is perfectly timed, but it's a bit robotic, And suddenly the doors kick open and this gritty, live acoustic jazz band crashes the stage.
I love that analogy.
They unplug the backing tracks to start wailing. That's the vibe MAMAMOO brought.
It really was.
But how did a small company's gamble on actual live singing force these massive, wealthy rival groups to suddenly scramble and improve their own performances? Like, what was the actual mechanism there?
What's fascinating here is how the fans and the technology of the time interacted. Around this era, fans started popularizing something called memory-removed videos.
Wait, what does MEMOR stand for?
Music recorded. They would use software to strip away the backing instrumental tracks from live TV broadcasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, isolating only the raw microphone feed.
So they were basically exposing who was lip-syncing
Hello,
and who was
Bali
actually
YouTube
singing
channel.
live.
Exactly. And for a lot of highly manufactured groups, these MR-removed videos were a PR nightmare.
I can imagine.
Oh, it was brutal. They exposed heavy breathing, missed notes, or just complete silence where vocals should be.
Yikes.
But for MAMAMOO, it was a goldmine. Their isolated vocal tracks sounded identical to their studio CDs.
That is insane.
Right. The public started actively seeking out their performances just to hear them sing. They didn't just introduce a new sound, they initiated a massive cultural shift where consumers started demanding proof of talent.
So rival agencies actually had to scramble to reinvest in vocal training.
Yeah, because MAMAMOO rose its baseline standard for everyone.
And they didn't stop at the music either. They completely challenged the variety show circuit, too.
Oh, big time.
Because at the time, idol groups maintained these very careful, polished, almost untouchable personas on camera, right?
Highly curated. I mean, you didn't make a mistake, and if you did, you certainly didn't draw attention to it.
It edited out. But MAMAMOO showed up and just acted like themselves. They cracked jokes. They famously tripped or made mistakes on camera.
Legendary mistakes, yeah.
Right. And instead of freezing up in terror, they just burst out laughing at themselves. They proved that being relatable and authentic was actually far more valuable than being perfectly manufactured.
They completely redefined idol personality. Variety show producers specifically wanted them because they guaranteed genuine, unscripted moments.
It was great TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Personality began to trump perfection, and it proved highly profitable.
It definitely did. By 2016, with hits like You're the Best, they were turning risky retro concepts into massive commercial successes.
Yeah.
Then came Decalcomany, which layered these incredibly complex, mature harmonies.
And if you look at the legacy of that era, they set a standard that the fourth and fifth generation groups like the younger cohorts of idols debuting today are still following.
Give me an example of that.
Well, you see groups like IVE placing heavy emphasis on live vocal stability, or ITZY carrying this unapologetically confident presence on variety shows. They're walking the path MAMAMOO cleared.
So they were defining the industry, selling out shows, racking up hits like Egotistic, Starry Night, HIP, and Go-Go Baby.
Absolute anthems.
They were at the absolute top of the mountain, which makes the next phase of their journey so painful for the fans to endure.
Yeah, the dark times.
Right. If they were dominating, why did we have to suffer through an agonizing 4-year wait since their October 2022 mini-album, Mic On?
Because, as our sources detail, to survive the long game in an industry designed for short lifespans, they actually had to grow apart to grow stronger.
And the logistics of that split are what I really want to dig into. We mentioned the unwritten rule earlier. Can you explain what usually happens when a K-pop group reaches the end of their first contract?
Sure. So in K-pop, there is a phenomenon known as the 7-year curse. By South Korean law, entertainment contracts are generally capped at 7 years to prevent exploitation.
Okay.
When that 7th year hits, it is notoriously a graveyard for groups. If members want different things, like acting or solo music, they leave the company.
And when they leave, the company keeps the group's name, the back catalog, basically everything.
Precisely. The agency owns the intellectual property.
Right.
So even if the members want to stay together, the mechanical friction of coordinating schedules and splitting profits between rival agencies is considered too much of a headache. The group simply disbands.
But MAMAMOO refused to let that be the end of their story.
They did.
In June 2021, Ween's contract expired. She chose not to renew with RBW, moving to the L1 and later a U.S. label. But she signed a specialized agreement to continue MAMAMOO activities.
Which was rare.
Very. Then, in 2023, Hwasa left and joined P Nation, which is PSY's label, also with an agreement to remain available. Meanwhile, Solar and Moonbill stayed at RBW.
So you suddenly have one cohesive group operating across 3 entirely separate corporate entities.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want you, the listener, to just imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of coordinating this.
It's giving me a headache just thinking about it.
Right. Think about trying to plan a simple dinner with 3 friends who all work different shifts. It's impossible.
Good luck.
Now multiply that by 4 massive solo artists. You have to negotiate profit sharing between rival corporate legal teams. You have to balance massive solo world tours, K-drama filming schedules, and exclusive brand endorsements.
It is a labyrinth on paper. It requires a level of communication and compromise that, honestly, most corporate entities are unwilling to navigate.
Which is why the fans were genuinely terrified during this 4-year hiatus. There were real doubts in the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
When Solar and Moonbill formed a subunit called MAMAMOO plus Hey, a lot of critics and fans whispered that this was the end, that the full group was quietly being retired because it was just too hard to get all 4 in a room.
And that anxiety was entirely justified based on historical precedent. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the group didn't just survive this hiatus, They survived because of it.
Yes.
The time apart was an incubation period. They used it to conquer almost every distinct quadrant of the entertainment industry.
Right. Instead of going through their achievements one by one, let's look at how they strategically dominated different spheres. Let's start with mainstream pop culture.
Okay.
Hwasa didn't just become a successful soloist, she became a cultural force, actively breaking down rigid K-pop beauty standards with hits like Twit, Maria, and I Love My Body.
She really did. And musically, she was a juggernaut. To put her commercial dominance into perspective, our sources highlight that she hit 750 perfect all-kills on the Korean charts.
Wait, explain for our listeners what a perfect all-kill actually means mathematically, because it sounds intense.
It is intense. In South Korea, there are multiple major streaming platforms, Melon, Genie, Bugs, etc. A perfect all-kill means an artist's song is simultaneously #1 on the daily charts, and the real-time charts across every single one of those platforms.
Wow.
Yeah, it requires absolute, unanimous public consumption. And hitting 750 of those is the second highest for any female soloist in K-pop history. She was packing massive arenas completely on her own.
So you have Hwasa dominating the mainstream cultural conversation, but then you look behind the scenes at the mechanics of music production, and Moonbyul was quietly taking over there.
Exactly. Moonbyul emerged as a powerhouse producer and songwriter. She registered over 130 songs with the Korea Music Copyright Association.
130, that's huge.
It's massive. She proved that female rappers in K-pop could carry melodic, critically acclaimed solo projects, releasing albums like Selfish and Eclipse. She essentially wrote a new blueprint for idols dominating the creative process behind the scenes.
Then you have the digital media sphere, which Solar absolutely conquered.
Oh, she's a YouTube mogul.
She really became one of K-pop's true YouTube pioneers. She built a channel with millions of subscribers, sharing vlogs, fitness routines, and vocal covers.
She proved an idol could be a multi-platform entertainer, an educator and a relatable presence, entirely bypassing traditional television broadcasting.
Which leaves the indie and R&B sphere, where Ween found immense critical acclaim.
Yes, Ween's journey is so interesting.
She focused deeply on artistry over mainstream chart chasing, though she achieved both. With her solo album Red, she collaborated with artists outside the idol ecosystem, building a deeply loyal fan base that valued her emotional depth and vocal color.
So they basically built 4 distinct empires. They proved that female artists don't have to choose between having a cohesive group identity and exploring their own highly specific artistic visions.
And they established massive individual leverage, which makes the October 2025 announcement so significant.
It really is the ultimate payoff.
The schedules miraculously align, the corporate red tape was cut, and the June 2026 comeback is officially locked in. The 4-year wait has an end date.
And the timing is poetic.
It is. June 19th, 2026 is their 12th anniversary. They didn't just survive the 7-year curse. They outlived it, survived the agency split, and are coming back.
And we really need to emphasize the sheer scale of this comeback.
So what does this all mean? I have to push back here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because usually, when a legendary group reunites after a long split, whether we are talking about K-pop or Western pop like the Spice Girls or NSYNC, it is almost always a nostalgia tour.
Right, playing the old hits.
Exactly. You get back together, you play the old hits for your aging fans, you make a very quick, very large sum of money, and you go back home.
Yeah, that's the standard playbook.
So why are our sources insisting so heavily that this 2026 MAMAMOO comeback is an evolution rather than just a trip down memory lane?
Well, this raises an important question about leverage. Think about those nostalgia tours you just mentioned.
Okay.
Often, the artists need the reunion to generate revenue or cultural relevance that they just can't get on their own anymore.
That makes sense.
But as we just discussed, Hwasa, Moonbyul, Solar, and Ween are at the absolute peak of their individual careers. They do not need this group to make money. They don't need it to stay relevant.
They aren't doing it because a restrictive contract is forcing them to.
Exactly. This reunion is entirely voluntary. They are returning out of genuine friendship, mutual artistic respect, and a desire to see what their evolved selves can create together.
It's powerful.
It is. And you can see that evolution in the scale of the tour. They are announcing 26 cities spanning Asia, the Americas, and Europe.
Which is massive. To put that in perspective, a typical tour for a senior K-pop group might hit 4 or 5 cities in Asia. Even MAMAMOO's previous massive tours capped out at around 15 cities.
Right.
Nearly doubling their tour size after a 4-year hiatus proves that global demand for them actually grew while they were apart.
It is a massive flex of confidence. And they aren't just slotting back into the roles they played in 2014 either.
What do you mean?
The sources indicate they are bringing those 4 solo empires back into the group dynamic. You'll see Hwasa's mainstream stage command, Moonbyul's high-level production instincts, Solar's crowd engagement, and Ween's refined artistry all converging.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
The tour structure itself will actually feature their individual solo stages before blending back into those legendary 4-part group harmonies.
I love this because it requires a mechanical analogy.
Laid on me.
Think about the K-pop agency model like an exclusive walled garden. The company builds the wall, they provide the water, the sunlight, the marketing.
Oh.
The threat has always been,
Yeah.
if you leave the garden, you lose the water and you wither.
Right, the 7-year curse.
But MAMAMOO didn't wither. They hopped the wall, built their own massive reservoirs in the wilderness, and now they are coming back and connecting all the plumbing together to create something bigger than the original garden.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. They're challenging the foundational model of K-pop, which dictates that a company must control an artist's output to keep the group intact. The company's worst nightmare is an idol realizing they don't need the company.
Right. But MAMAMOO's proving that letting artists explore, build their own brands, and then choose to return makes the group undeniably stronger and more creatively potent.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It really is mind-blowing when you look at the journey. They entered an industry in 2014 that demanded absolute conformity. They were too loud, too jazzy, and too confident for the modest image that was expected.
They definitely were.
But instead of changing themselves to fit the industry, they forced the industry to change to accommodate them. And now, 12 years later, they're taking 4 distinct solo empires and merging them back into one unstoppable entity.
It's so cool.
For you Moomoo's listening who have been waiting 4 years, crying over every little hint, the sources make it clear this isn't just a concert, it is a victory lap. Your faith was completely justified.
It is a celebration of survival, friendship, and artistic integrity.
It truly is. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder long after you finish listening. Because the implications of this go way beyond just one incredible 26-city tour.
Oh, definitely.
If MAMAMOO successfully pulls this off in 2026, does this spell the end of the traditional, restrictive K-pop agency monopoly?
The industry executives are certainly watching this closely. I can tell you that.
They have to be. If MAMAMOO proves that you can be bigger than the system that created you, could it pave the way for a future where K-pop's biggest groups operate more like freelance superhero teams?
Oh, I like that.
Imagine a landscape where artists aren't owned by a single corporate tower. They operate their own individual universes, and then when the time is right, they assemble.
Like the Avengers.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
pool their superpowers, deliver an incredible album and tour, and then comfortably return to their solo lives. If MAMAMOO pulls this off, they aren't just crashing the synthesized EDM club anymore. They are buying the entire building.
They really are.
Keep your eyes on June 2026. It's going to be historic.